1,000 days have passed since the war in Ukraine broke out. And now that the U.S. is reportedly letting Ukraine use long-range weapons in Russia, will that become any game changer to ending the crisis? We're joined by Professor Joel Atkinson this morning. It's good to have you back, Professor.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to be with you again.
So, Professor Atkinson, some experts view that Biden's decision to allow long-range missiles in Russia is a warning to North Korea, which has dispatched troops to Russia. Do you also believe that this is so?
Yeah, well, it's more than just a warning to North Korea, really. Ukraine will now use those US-supplied ATACMS, these longer-range missiles, to strike targets not only in Russian-occupied Ukraine, but in Russia itself, and that includes North Korean forces. This relates to Russia's Kursk region. Ukraine took control of the Kursk Oblast in August, creating this buffer, drawing in Russian forces to reduce the pressure elsewhere. It also serves as a bargaining chip to help Ukraine secure an acceptable peace. However, Russian forces are still slowly gaining ground in Ukrainian territory, and the Ukrainian forces holding Kursk are under increasing pressure. Putin's using the North Korean troops he has to help in Kursk. And for some time now, Ukraine has been asking for permission to strike those forces, which includes the North Koreans as they assemble, and fearing that escalation, the US as well as France and the UK haven't wanted to do that. But now, following the involvement of North Korea and at the end of Biden's term, Ukraine has the green light.
Well, the question is, will it at least stop North Korea from sending its troops to Russia?
Yes, well, I think a long, complicated process has brought those North Korean troops to this point, and they won't be going home just because they're under missile attack. If the attack on Kursk fails, or if the North Korean troops experience heavy losses, in part due to those ATACMS, it may reduce the chance that the North Koreans will be redeployed to fight inside Ukraine, or it may make it less likely that Kim and Putin agree to send more North Korean troops.
Well, Professor Atkinson, Tuesday already marks 1,000 days since Russia launched offensives against Ukraine with, speculations that North may send more soldiers to Russia. But the question is, will the presence of North Korean forces in Russia make any difference in the conflict?
Well, I think they are making a difference, and we'll see more North Koreans will be sent if each side thinks it's worth it. It's difficult to know what that would mean since we don't know what Russia had to give for those first 10,000 or so troops. On the other hand, they've now done it once, and that suggests they can probably do it again. And the longer Ukraine holds on, the harder it gets for Russia in terms of finding manpower, then the more Putin will want help from North Korea, and the more he'll be willing to pay. And if Kim is getting what he wants out of it, and if the deployment is not creating serious problems from high losses or defections and so on, then why not? And as I said, those North Koreans, I think, are making a difference. By all accounts, Russia is under real strain, but it seems Ukraine may be in an even worse situation. And if more North Koreans are sent, it will only get more difficult for Ukraine.
Then why is North Korea yet to comment on the U.S. presidential election results? I mean, it's been already 2 weeks since President-elect Donald Trump has been reelected.
Yeah, so that's not really surprising. North Korea doesn't usually comment on U.S. election results and only responds after the new administration kind of declares or states its North Korea policy. Presumably, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's statement calling for this limitless expansion of the nuclear arsenal is a comment on the election result in its own way. It's a warning to Trump that Kim is undaunted, but also sets the stage for possible negotiations. In effect, he may be saying to Trump, what are you going to give me in return for putting a limit on my limitless nuclear arsenal?
Right, not an unusual move for North Korea to, stay quiet on the election results. But in the meantime, the regime has resumed flying trash-filled balloons to South Korea. What's on the North's mind?
Yeah, that's right. Well, the thing to understand here is that just by existing, just by being a prosperous liberal democracy, South Korea is an ideological threat to the North Korean regime. It's not able to directly control South Korea, so it must try to get South Koreans to act to reduce that threat. So these ongoing trash balloons are an attempt to pressure the South Korean side to prevent North Korean defector groups and others from launching anti-regime balloons towards the north. The longer these trash balloons keep coming, the more pressure builds on the Yoon administration to put restrictions on those launches. And if he won't, well, then it creates an election problem for his side of politics, the Conservatives, until perhaps a president is elected who will be willing to restrict those launches.
Right, maybe a strategic move to keep the tensions high on the Korean Peninsula.
I think so. And it's very hard for Yoon to then escalate to create some leverage, as he'll be accused of provoking a war. And indeed, North Korea is a very credible and powerful threat. But, having said that, right now, it's hard to see Pyongyang wanting to risk a major conflict when some of its troops and weapons are on the other side of the continent over there in Europe.
Alrighty, Professor Atkinson, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.